Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're going to be talking about children and their needs from the legislature with former State Senator Patricia Farley, Dr. Tiffany Garner, and Jeanette Belz. It's all coming up next on the all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we've got a program all about kids and their needs vis-a-vis the legislature, and it's going to be a terrific show. We have three great guests. Patricia Farley is here, Vice Chair of the Board of Directors for the Children's Advocacy Alliance. Dr. Tiffany Garner, who is Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Alliance, and Jeanette Belz of J.K. Belz and Associates, J.K. Belz, I should say, who's a government affairs consultant. Welcome to you all, ladies. Let me start out with you, former Senator Patricia Farley. Why did you get involved with this organization?
So I actually met them through my first session in 2015. They are the think tank and the policy think tank for child welfare and safety in Nevada, both at the state and federal and local levels. But what I was most impressed with was the amount of work they were doing on behalf of Nevada's children, and not with, at that time, a bunch of resources, but really the only people front and center on the front line fighting for Nevada's most vulnerable population, which was children. And so I couldn't help but be involved as a legislature. And then I was honored in 2018 or 19 when they asked me to join the board. And I couldn't be doing better work in the community with these folks.
Dr. Garner, give us a brief description of what your organization does.
Two priorities. We increase awareness, particularly around the conditions impacting children and families, and we amplify the voices that are asking for resources or helping to move the needle on those issues. We're a nonpartisan, statewide, independent child advocacy organization where we're dedicating our time and talents to improving conditions for children in 4 key areas. That's child health, economic well-being, early learning, and child safety is a part of the work.
Obviously going into this session, I'm presuming you have the greatest need you've ever had.
Yes. As a part of recognizing the unique time that we've been in and what this session will call for in terms of an economic recovery, we are providing a number of resources to help folks better understand or contextualize the state of children in Nevada. One of those is the Nevada Kids Count Report, a report card that we provide periodically, where we look at those key areas of health, economic well-being, safety, and other areas. And it's important to note that the most recent report was issued in 2020, but it actually captured a time before the pandemic, where we were already showing declines in mental health and economic being for children as a part of that process. And then most recently, this past December, issued another report specifically looking at the pandemic, where we noted 4 key pain points for Nevadans. One was housing instability, where nearly 1 in 4 were uncertain about how they would make their mortgage or rent. Another was food insecurity, where 2 in 10 Nevadans are reporting not having enough food. And yet another was the number of Nevadans reporting feeling hopeless. Like over 25%, over 1 in 4 Nevadans are currently reporting feeling hopeless in a time like this. So definitely some tough decisions ahead and a huge lift, but we're hopeful that folks will keep our children and families in mind as they consider how we ensure recovery for all Nevadans.
Senator, you've been running an organization for quite some time that helps feed kids. How far short are we in terms of the ability to feed kids?
Well, what's interesting is pre-pandemic, we were about 14% short of feeding just Clark County kids. That's not even the whole statewide. So the rurals really suffer quite a bit as well because they have less ability to distribute the food through the school system or through the food banks. But now we're looking at numbers over 22%. And that's just in children who meet or exceed the definition of chronically hungry or food insecure within our school systems. So it's not getting better. And I want to point out, it was pre-pandemic, it wasn't good. And now it's moving towards catastrophic. And that's why the work that Dr. Tyler is doing in CAA, being out in front of all of these nonprofit organizations, even the one I run, which is serving our kids, we need groups like Dr. Tyler and CAA out there advocating on behalf of the entire state and the welfare and the safety of children.
Dr. Tyler, Garner, the school system normally provides additional meals during the school year and even during the off times for kids. Is that not occurring to the level it needs to occur at this point in time, and is that part of what's causing the problem?
Well, it's important to note there's been a concerted effort, but the need is great. So if you factor in the fact that while they have, particularly during the summer months and other times, continue to offer food and other services, the challenges of transportation and other challenges impact that distribution. And so the short answer is we're trying, but the need is great.
Jeanette, as you look at this coming, well, it's upon us now, this legislative session just started last week as we tape this, there's no money. So, how do you get blood from a stone?
Thank you, Sam, and I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be here and talk about these important issues. You're right, the need is great and funding is short. However, we're seeing some positives. For example, IFC, as we tape this, is meeting today to talk about some of the CARES dollars that they're going to be accepting. Those are largely in education, but there's great hope that there will be other dollars that flow through the federal government in terms of the pandemic relief.
And so, it seems like the entire state is depending on this new funding that needs to come through and looks likely to come through, whichever way it does it, whether it's a bipartisan deal or whether the Democrats push it through. But it seems, judging by the Sunday shows, that March is probably the deadline to get something passed. Would you agree with that?
That's what it's looking like, Sam. You wish March were here already, but it's not.
Senator Farley, if the money is approved in March, how long will it take for it to work its way into the system to start benefiting these kids?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think for very long, but Dr. Tyler has been working directly with the grantors and with the state on how that distribution was going. I think you had a meeting, Dr. T, this week about that, correct?
Yes, particularly as it relates to childcare and the role it'll play in our economic recovery. It's important to note that there was a relief package passed in December, And that part of that package is working its way through the system right now. We're actually holding, this week, held a convening on Monday, particularly looking at the investment in childcare as a part of that process, where nationally they're reporting that there will be a $10 billion investment with some allocation coming to Nevada, where we wanted to know kind of what were some of the challenges that that industry was facing as they attempted to keep their doors open so that the workforce could continue to work.
And, let's point out that even with that relief coming, it's taking 2 months from the time that Congress is allotting that money for it to find itself into the actual system. Childcare is a big deal, and we don't tend to normally think about it because it's just part of what people go through. And even though it's a huge expense, families take care of that. But at this point in time, what is the situation like as far as childcare is concerned, and what help can the state and the federal government give in providing childcare?
Things are challenging. I would say almost bordering on dire. It's important to note that even prior to the pandemic, we were reporting like a $57 billion loss in revenue, wages, and productivity as a result of the lack of investment in childcare. And currently, we're reporting as many as 42% of our childcare slots may be lost as a part of the process. With childcare employers reporting things like a 91% increase in the cost that they're paying for cleaning supplies, 56% that they're reporting that they're losing funding, keeping their doors open, and that 60% are paying additional for staff during this time. So it's a tough time. There are folks who have tried to remain open. A third or more report that they've had to reduce hours as a part of that process, and that the cost of continuing to staff with the low enrollment that they're seeing for a number of reasons is a significant challenge.
And Jeanette, is this the responsibility of the state to provide the funding for childcare? Because at this point, with so many people not being able to work, they don't have the money for an increased cost of childcare, let alone the regular cost of childcare.
Thank you for that question, Sam. I think one of the things that may get lost in the conversation is that the availability of childcare is actually directly related to the ability to have the economic recovery. So, for example, if childcare is no longer available or significantly reduced, or it takes a long time for that industry to ramp up again, then we're actually going to see parents that aren't going to be able to go back to work because they've got childcare needs but no place to put those children. At the state level, we currently already have a program. It's called the Child Care and Development Program, and that currently already assists low-income families or those that receive assistance, or importantly are transitioning from receiving assistance to help pay for childcare. And their caseload projections in fiscal year 2022 are 10,470 kids, up to 10,587 kids in FY 2023. And that's just for low-income family assistance. But there's lots of families out there that need childcare in order to be able to go back to work, even if financially they're in better situation.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back much more on this very important topic after this time out.
Get in on the action at the Tamarack Casino and win your share of $100,000 guaranteed now through February 27th, plus 5 times points every Friday. $100,000 guaranteed at Tamarack Casino. Your good times are at Tamarack.
Enjoy exceptional value and a comfortable atmosphere at Reno's newest steakhouse, Nevada Steak.
Ooh, your good times at Tamarack.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with former State Senator Patricia Farley, Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner, and Jeanette Belz, all associated with the Children's Advocacy Alliance. We were talking about child care, Senator, and you have a passel of kids. Anybody who follows you on Facebook knows that you have a large family. You also run several businesses. What is it like for you regarding childcare and your employees and family?
So we've always noticed, most Nevada business employers notice that there's always been an issue with childcare and for our employees, but now it's particularly tough because parents have lost jobs, parents are working less, the childcare has evaporated, the services, and if they're not seeing the family because of the pandemic, so they can't go to grandma or grandpa. And so I have two moms that work for me currently, and they bring their kids in. So there is online schoolwork being done in our conference room. And we've had to become very flexible about, working in the office and working from home. I have the other mom, 3 days out of the week, has 3 different phones in her pocket, and we just forward all of our calls into that, to those lines, so she can answer the phones from home because she's got 3 kids. So without childcare, so it's a definite challenge, and both from an expense standpoint, when mom and dad are working less hours, or one parent loses a job or was only working part-time, you got that issue. Childcare can be $200 to $300 a week. And then you can't even find it right now. So it's just tough. So it's something that the state needs to help out with, for sure.
Yes, and it's something that, a business can't survive if there are no kids. So you can't run a child care situation when there are no kids available for that. Dr. Tyler Garner, one of the issues that was raised in the survey that you did, Kids, Family, and COVID-19, was with mental health concerns. And that's something we've talked about on this program quite a bit, which is that students are suffering because they're not able to do the normal things that kids do. And I'm speaking particularly of teenagers and graduation from school, sports, all these kinds of things. Share with us your concerns about mental health.
2 things I would note, that even prior to the pandemic, we were receiving a failing grade as it related to children's mental health. And there was a trend of a decline. So if you can imagine grappling with the social isolation, and in many instances, just whether or not you can find available or affordable mental health care has been a challenge. So there's been recent discussions talking about the impact, and while folks vary on whether or not it's a significant trend and increase, it's important to know that even if you're not looking at the increase, that long before we entered into this time, that there was a need for resources around mental health for our young people.
Do you see this as a multi-general problem where you have parents and grandparents very concerned about their kids who are currently in school or graduating, the kids themselves, and the effect this will have down the road?
Absolutely, and I'll talk about it from a few places. So it's important to note that during that pandemic report, nearly 1 in 4 Nevadans were reporting that they were hopeless or having feelings of despair. So imagine you're a child in a household where 1 in 4 are already reporting feeling hopeless. Couple that with the social isolation that has resulted during the pandemic, the stigma around whether or not it's okay to not be okay, or have concerns about your mental health, all those compound in ways that are putting our children at risk for a number of things during this time. And so I can't underscore the importance of addressing this as a major issue for our children. Early in the pandemic, we were talking about seniors and isolation. I think we're realizing that not only is there a multi-generational impact, as you alluded to, the fact that we were already prior to the pandemic asking, shouldn't we be making additional investments in our mental health care system or network? That's just one other area where the pandemic has exacerbated a number of safety nets that were already in our state.
Jeanette, I've been doing television news for 41 years, and from my very first year in doing television news, mental health was a major issue for the Silver State, and it just doesn't seem that it's gotten that much better over the years. Let me ask you this, Jeanette. Are we in a situation where the legislature is going to push the idea of kids going back to school as soon as possible at this time?
Thank you, Sam. That's been on the table for some time now, and we're seeing some talk about hybrid models. In terms of kids going back to school, as Dr. Tyler Garner mentioned, that social isolation, I think, is just now becoming more evident. And it's sad that as a state, we constantly struggle with the mental health needs of our population as a whole. I happened to listen to one of the mental health consortium meetings. There's children's mental health consortium meetings. And Misty Allen from the Office of Suicide Prevention mentioned at that meeting that their budget was never as great as the biennium after they were created. And that was 10, 12 years ago. So it's been constantly declining. So as a priority in our state, I think it's something we definitely need to look at and discuss based on the evidence that we're seeing from this pandemic. And I might just add that it's important to note that things like this pandemic report that Dr. Tyler Garner referred to earlier in the show, there's not a lot of data like that available. And the fact that CAA is on the front edge of that is important, and they're doing their best to distribute information like that to legislators. They had a forum earlier in the month of February in January to describe those implications to legislators and other stakeholders, and I really feel that they are on the forefront of that effort.
All right, let's take another break. We'll be right back.
Get in on the action at the Tamarack Casino and win your share of $100,000 guaranteed. Now through February 27th, plus 5 times points every Friday. $100,000 guaranteed at Tamarack Casino. Your good times are at Tamarack.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
Get in on the action at the Tamarack Casino and win your share of $100,000 guaranteed. Now through February 27th, plus 5 times points every Friday. $100,000 guaranteed at Tamarack Casino. Your good times are at Tamarack.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're continuing our conversation with three members of the Children's Advocacy Alliance, and just get some final thoughts here. Senator Farley, what's your thoughts here as we sum up?
I think that my biggest thought is that returning our economy back to working is going to be dependent on our ability to resource childcare for working families.
Dr. Tyler Garner?
It's critical that we bring an equity and an opportunity lens to any of these tough decisions that we'll need to make. That we must ask ourselves, where is the greatest need? But as a part of that, or the flip side of that coin, is where's the greatest impact that we can have for children and families during a time like that? Recognizing that economic recovery, as Senator Farley noted, is contingent upon a number of safety nets or resources that have been in place, strained, and were weak before we even entered the pandemic.
And Jeanette, you get the last word, and you got about 10 seconds.
The state of Nevada will never be better than the state of its children, so it's really important for policymakers to look at the impact on kids.
And that's a great way to end the program. Thank you all very much indeed. I appreciate your input, and I hope that the chairs of Finance and Ways and Means are paying strong attention to this program. Thank you all, and we'll be right back. Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hey, Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
You can now watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Nevada Newsmakers and become a subscriber. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching and listening.